Thank you, Chairman Conrad, and for holding this hearing. I think it is helpful for us to meet and continue to discuss these issues, although we're not working on a budget, unfortunately. And thank you, Dr. Rivlin, for all you've done for your country and for being with us again today. Dr. Holzer and Dr. Foster for joining us to share your insights. There's one thing we can agree on, I think, that we're suffering from unacceptably and persistently high unemployment. Millions are unable to find jobs. Millions are unable to find jobs on a full-time basis and that are now working part-time. Our economy has experienced anemic growth this year and unexpectedly high unemployment this year. America's gross debt is rising to dangerous new levels. I do, however, have a confident feeling about our future. I believe that if we meet the challenges of our current crisis, we'll struggle, but that we will rise from it with a renewed vibrancy and strength. No workforce on earth is more skilled, more productive, or dynamic than the American workforce. No business community is more effective. No nation can compete with the men and women that make up this economy. That is as true today as it ever was, and there's some indications that if we do things right, we may take back our production of manufacturing that America has lost in past years. America's private sector is just waiting to grow and expand, but unwise government policy continues to stand in the way. Unpredictable federal intervention is fostering a climate of fear and uncertainty. Businesses are threatened with a constant slew of new taxes and regulations, and America's gross debt, now 100% of GDP, hangs over the economy like a dark gray cloud. A prominent study praised by Secretary Geithner indicates that our debt at the debt level today already costs us growth and jobs. We need policies that create a better environment for job creation, and ones that don't add to the debt. That means more American energy production, the elimination of harmful and costly regulations, and growth-oriented tax reform. All three committee witnesses last week, Democrat and Republican, agree with the wisdom of those ideas. Since taking office, President Obama has surged our gross federal debt nearly $5 trillion in 3 years. Non-defense discretionary spending spiked 24% during the first 2 years of his presidency. And his February budget called for further dramatic increases in spending, discretionary spending next year, increases, double digit. For instance, he's requested a 13% increase in education spending, following an almost 70% increase in total education spending since taking office. The President routinely talks about the need to make government investments, i.e. spending, but he forgets to mention just how much we've already spent. Yesterday, he made his fourth attempt this year to offer a credible fiscal vision, but I was disappointed to see he again failed to present the honest budget plan America deserves and our economy needs. The White House says that the President's plan achieves $3.2 trillion in deficit reduction. The actual deficit reduction is only $1.4 trillion, less than half of what the White House states. Note, this is $1.4 trillion in deficit reduction, not spending reduction, even the 1.4 that's achieved. This has become the pattern. The President understates the depth of our fiscal danger and overstates the impact of his plans. Consider the astounding disparity between the levels of taxation claimed versus those actually contained in the proposal. The White House asserts $2 in cuts for every $1 in tax hikes. The true figure is nowhere close to that. The President's plan is comprised of tax hikes alone. In reality, there is not a single penny of net spending that's cut. Yesterday, the President said this, quote, "I'm proposing real serious cuts in spending." When you include the $1 trillion in cuts that I've already signed into law, these would be among the biggest cuts in spending in our history, close quote. In reality, under the President's plan, the net change in spending is an increase. In fact, the President's plan is to keep spending more. Part of this is a result of the President's new stimulus jobs program. But there are 3 additional accounting tricks the White House used to get these inflated figures. First, war funding. The plan shows $1.1 trillion in savings from putting a cap on war costs, but those costs are going to decrease as the war effort unwinds, whether or not there are caps in place. They do not represent actual spending cuts from what we project or a new policy to achieve future savings. The President's proposed caps simply manipulate baseline concepts to show the savings as a policy choice which inflates the spending cuts in the President's plans. Congress rightly rejected this accounting process as part of the deficit reduction during our recent debate. The doc fix. The administration's baseline also assumes a Medicare doc fix, which is the payment for our physicians, an increase in spending of $293 billion over 10 years compared to the current baseline. This gimmick accounts for the higher spending as a given rather than as a policy choice that needs to be offset. Without this gimmick, the President's health care savings of $320 billion becomes a health care savings of only $27 billion. Interest savings. The President counts as savings the net interest reductions that result from his proposed tax hikes. Counts that as a spending cut. When you're in a crisis, you must deal honestly with the American people. A president, more than anyone, is to have credibility with the American people. You must present the facts with a credible solutions. Americans are good, decent, hard-working people who will accept a difficult course of action on honest terms, but the White House is trying to be clever at the expense of being credible. The debt is destroying jobs today, and if we're going to restore confidence and growth and credibility, credibility is one asset we cannot afford to borrow against. America deserves an honest, fact-based approach to our economic challenges, one that controls Washington's spending and grows the private sector. I hope today's hearing will move us in that direction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for leading us and calling us together and this good panel of witnesses.